Welcome. I'm the Faceless Detective. I've spent my life digging through the twisted wreckage of human fear and suffering, uncovering truths so dark they'd claw at your sanity. Every case is a brutal reminder of what happens when ordinary people are pulled into the jaws of the extraordinary. Tonight, we're plunging headfirst into one of those stories of those who faced the inexplicable and came out at the other side changed, or didn't come out at all. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most chilling cave tragedies in recent history, a story that begins with the thrill of adventure and ends in the cold, suffocating darkness of Nutty Putty Cave. John Edward Jones was no stranger to caving. He grew up exploring caves with his father and brother, squeezing through impossibly tight spaces, crawling on his belly for what felt like miles, feeling the rush of excitement with every push forward. But John's passion for caving was more than just a childhood hobby. It was a way to connect with his family. And so, when he came back to Utah for Thanksgiving in 2009, he and his brother, Josh, decided to relive those memories, to take on the challenge of Nutty Putty Cave one more time. Now, Nutty Putty Cave wasn't your typical underground adventure spot. It was a known maze of narrow passages and tight, twisting tunnels. Only experienced cavers dared to take it on. Its most infamous routes had sinister names like the Birth Canal and the Scout Eater, names that served as warnings. But despite its reputation, Nutty Putty had a magnetic pull for thrill seekers, and that pull drew John in. On the night of November 24th, 2009, John, Josh, and a few friends arrived at the cave's entrance. The air was crisp, and excitement buzzed among them. They geared up, helmets with headlamps, gloves, and knee pads, and entered the mouth of the cave. For a while, everything seemed fine. They moved through the initial passages, talking and laughing, their voices bouncing off the cool, damp walls. But as they ventured deeper, the cave seemed to close in around them, the passages growing tighter, the air colder. John led the way, carefully navigating through a tight passage known as the Big Slide. He slid forward on his belly, inching through the narrow space, and then he saw it. Off to the side, a small, almost imperceptible opening. A shortcut, he thought, a way to reach the birth canal faster. It looked challenging, but manageable. With a confident grin, John made the decision that would cost him everything. He turned his body, twisted his shoulders, and pushed himself into the unmarked tunnel. The walls immediately pressed against him, squeezing his chest and hips, but he kept going. He wriggled forward, the jagged rocks scraping against his clothes and skin. Inch by inch, he advanced, until suddenly, he couldn't move. His arms were pinned at his sides, his head tilted downward at an awkward angle. He tried to breathe deeply, but the space was too tight. Panic set in. His body began to tremble as he tried to shift himself back to pull free. But the harder he struggled, the deeper he slipped. Gravity, unrelenting, pulled him further into the darkness, until he was almost completely inverted, his head down, his feet up, wedged in the tightest spot imaginable.
Hey, Josh! I think I'm stuck.
At first, Josh thought it was a joke. They'd been in tight spots before, places where they had to exhale just to squeeze through. But as Josh approached and shone his light into the tunnel, his heart sank. He could barely see John, just the outline of his brother's body, crammed into an impossibly tight passage. The tunnel was no more than 10 inches wide. John's arms were pinned, his body compressed. There was no room to move, no room to breathe. "Don't worry, man," Josh said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We'll get you out." But deep down, he knew this was bad. Hours passed. John's friends tried everything. But with each attempt, he only slipped further down. His body was nearly vertical now, head down in a position that no human should ever be in. Josh's voice echoed through the tight crevice, trying to comfort his brother. "Just hang in there. Help's coming." The rescue teams arrived quickly, trained professionals, seasoned cavers, and medics. But even they were stunned when they saw the situation. John was trapped at a sharp angle, in a passage so tight and so deep that it was unlike anything they had dealt with before. They set up a complex pulley system, attaching ropes and harnesses to try to pull him out. The rescuers spoke to him constantly, keeping his spirits up, asking him about his wife, Emily, and his 13-month-old daughter, Lizzie. John's voice was faint, strained, but he kept talking. He told them how much he loved his family, how he couldn't wait to hold his daughter again. But as the hours stretched on, something terrible began to happen. John's body, trapped upside down and compressed, began to shut down. Blood pooled in his head, his heart struggled to keep up, and his breathing grew labored. Every movement, every pull, seemed to worsen his condition. "We're almost there, John," a rescuer shouted as they tightened the pulley system, the ropes creaking under the strain. "Just hold on a little longer. We've got the anchor in place." John's voice came back weak and slurred. "Please, tell my wife. I love her." The pulley groaned under the weight, straining against the angle and pressure. Inch by inch, John's body shifted, scraping against the rock. And then, there was a sudden crack, a sharp, echoing sound that cut through the cave like a gunshot. John's body slipped back into the crevice, deeper than before. His cries of pain echoed briefly, then silence. The rescuers froze, their faces pale with horror. They scrambled to reset the system, but it was no use. John was now wedged so deeply, so tightly, that they couldn't even reach him. They tried everything, changing angles, using different ropes, but with each attempt, John's voice grew fainter, until it was gone. After 27 agonizing hours of being trapped, alone in the dark, John Edward Jones took his last breath. His body succumbed to the crushing pressure of the cave, his lungs unable to draw in the thin, suffocating air. He died in the very place he had once thought of as an adventure, a place that had become his tomb. Devastated and exhausted, the rescue team made the hardest decision of their lives. John's body could not be safely recovered. The risk of another collapse, of more lives lost, was too high. They sealed Nutty Putty Cave with a concrete plug, turning it into a permanent tomb for the young father who ventured too far into the dark. Today, Nutty Putty Cave remains closed. A memorial plaque stands at its entrance, a somber reminder of the dangers that lie beneath the earth, and the price of even the smallest mistake. John's story still echoes through the caving community, a tragic testament to the unforgiving nature of places like Nutty Putty. So the next time you hear the call of adventure, remember John Edward Jones. Remember what he faced in the depths, and ask yourself, is the thrill worth the risk? Because sometimes, the dark doesn't let go. If you've enjoyed stepping into the unknown with me, don't forget to subscribe for more. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and be careful where you look. You never know what might be looking back.